Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. Great to be with so many old friends and new friends. Wonderful to be here in this temple I love so much. So today I'm going to describe an incident that happened recently. Um, I was sitting for about a half an hour, and then my little alarm rang, and I got up and I saw this, which is a card that I got to thank me from Berkeley Zen Center for giving a little contribution. They always send that. And something struck me. And so I'll share them with you because I found them helpful for me in dealing with the whole mess that we're dealing with, which is so painful. So that's called the Enso. And this one is done by Kaz Tanahashi, who's a wonderful teacher and calligrapher, and it's pretty abstract expressionist. Um, you see, it's kind of like a circle that's sort of not completely closed. And this is a more traditional image of the Enso. And so I saw this, and several things came together for me uh, that I found helpful, so I'll share them. Um, the Enso is the symbol is pictured in the eighth Oxfording picture, which is a series of pictures describing or representing the path from just total, my God, what's going on here, to very mature practice. And it represents, in a sense, um, what Suzuki Roshi called things as it is. Um, and it's kind of the essence of the whole thing, according to Buddhism. And so, what does that mean? And we'll try to talk a bit about it. Um, and what I realized was that the Enso contained everything. There was some sense in which the Enso contained all the horrors around us, all the horrors that have ever been. I mean, and it also contains the sun, moon, and stars in it. And that kind of somehow accepting that was helpful for me. It gave me a certain peace, which has been a commodity that I haven't been able to have very much recently. Um, but there's something about the Enso and that whole concept of things as it is, or people call it the absolute, or it's maybe what the Buddha saw under the Bodhi tree when he saw the morning star, is that it tends to go with descriptions that there's no good and there's no bad. And that really bothers me because I say, what happened to ethics? There is good and bad. And for example, that kind of thing. I mean, this is a new book. Can you see it? It's all right side and back side, so I don't know. This Becoming Yourself. This is the new book by Suzuki Roshi, who was the teacher of Peter and the grandfather teacher of Jane and the teacher of my teacher. And this was done at the end of my teacher, Mel Weitzman, Sojun Roshi, his life. And it came from a bunch of, when he ran into a quote of Suzuki Roshi that particularly affected him, that he found very helpful, he just put it aside and sort of filed it away. And towards the end of his life, he started working with one of his teachers, Jiryu, who's now abbot at Green Gulch, in putting it together into a book. And so I find it wonderful. But in that book, he says this. about Buddha nature, whatever that is. He says, so in our practice, there is no good or evil. It is not a matter of good or evil. So-called good and so-called evil are created by your small mind. For your true nature, there is no good or bad. Your true nature is beyond good and bad. So that always bothered me because I would say there is good and bad, and that's a big deal. And what are you talking about? And it struck me that, what they're really saying is that something like, when you look at it from the perspective of the whole mess, there's good stuff, there's bad stuff, but you're looking at it from the perspective of the whole thing. And within that, there's simply good stuff and bad stuff. That's what there is. We all know that. We all see that. And it's a matter of that you might perhaps be able to look at that as a whole. There are things, and Suzuki Roshi said, trying to explain this, things as it is. So there are things, but he's using singular, it, not they, or things as they are, as they are. That would be plural. And that we understand, and that makes sense. And so it strikes me, and there, so that's a particular way of looking at things. And then the ninth Oxfording picture looks like this. And you see there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. This is everything there is. And it's the 10,000 things we say. And that's the ninth Oxfording picture. And that might sometimes be called the relative, whereas the eighth would refer to the absolute. And we have a teaching poem called The Identity of the Relative and Absolute, which we recite fairly often. And it means what it says, as I understand it, that there is no difference between the relative and the absolute. They both include everything. But there's a different point of view. The relative, you see everything. You see you and me, you see each individual one of us. But from the absolute, you just see that we're all in this mess together, so to speak. It's kind of a colloquial way of saying such fancy things. And so this kind of thing, a metaphor I like for this is the ocean and the waves. I mean, there's no separation of the ocean and the waves. The ocean, we think of one big, peaceful, vast thing. The waves are individual, and the waves can be very gentle, and we can find them very beautiful and peaceful. Or the waves can be hurricane waves or tsunamis. It can kill, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And when they do that, we say rightly, that's horrible. And we say, how can I help? And that's what the Buddha would hope for, I would think. And so, but at the same time, the waves can't be separated from the whole ocean. The waves are water. The whole ocean is water. And it's funny, like a wave, it's just all water. I mean, when you have a tsunami on the big ocean, it's hardly detectable. And it's those, and so it's very peaceful. You probably wouldn't notice it. And so it's all one. And at the same time, when it hits the shore, it's horrible. And then we have to do something. So it struck me that it's important and helpful to acknowledge things as it is. And there's a certain peace and a certain acceptance in that, that there could be an acceptance that horrible things are there. They just are. We all know that. And if you're anything like me, you hate it. And I've been spending a lot of time being furious at all sorts of things that are happening. And that's okay. And that's natural. The problem is, well, there are many problems. The problem is, first of all, that it's very painful. And the second problem is it does absolutely no good, if you think about it. Me sitting here furious is not changing anything of the horrible things that's happening out there. And so, um, finding some degree of peace, some degree of equanimity, some degree of not being overwhelmed right now with rage uh, seems to me essential to do something, to improve things, not to mention our own sanity and our own health. So I was thinking, like, if you think of Martin Luther King and the March on Washington, um, the Martin Luther King had endless reasons for feeling total rage. And I'm sure he did feel rage a lot of the time. But if you think of organizing that, you have to, you know, you have to make a call to the bus company and say, I need, hundreds of buses. And they need to pick people up at these places and drop people off at these places. And unless you do that, my friend and teacher Alan Senaki, who's the former abbot of Berkeley Zen Center and recently died, Alan was at the March in Washington as a 16-year-old high school student. And he got there because he took a bus that someone had arranged and paid for, and they set up that it was going to be at this place. So Alan or his parents could bring him to that place and you can get on the bus. And that's how Alan got to the March on Washington. And so it changed his life. I mean, for him, Martin Luther King, I would say, is a teacher equal to the Buddha or equal to Sojin Roshi in a lot of ways. Just tremendous. I mean, Alan's Dharma is the Dharma of Martin Luther King. And if they hadn't had the equanimity to say, okay, all of this, and now I have to call the bus company, and I have to deal with whoever I get, and whatever their attitude towards this thing is, and I have to somehow arrange this and make this happen and find out how much it costs. We have to figure out how much to ask people who ride on the bus. We have to figure out a way for people who can't afford that. How can we help them? All these things. And so they did that, and they found that degree of peacefulness in themselves to be able to do that. And the result is there was a March on Washington, and there was the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, all the stuff that's now being so threatened. But it was there. It happened. It's there. It's officially still the law. But if they hadn't had that, like, let's do a demonstration, and they hadn't gotten their act together with the bus company, there would be a few people there. And he could have given the same speech, but there wouldn't be much coverage, and no one now would have any idea that he gave that speech. No one would know about it. In order for us to know about it, in order for the civil rights movement, for the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, in order for Alan to devote his life to Dharma and to social activism, they had to calm down and call the bus company. And um, so I think that that's a thing that is important for us to realize. I also think it's really important to not give ourselves a further trip because accepting things as it is includes accepting our own limitations. We have health issues, we have financial difficulties, there are people who are very dependent on us that we have to support. It's not going to help anything if we don't take care of ourselves. It's not going to take anything if we force our bodies or our minds to do something that is just beyond them. And we have to come to an acceptance of that. I want to be at this demonstration, or, and that has to be, and that's okay. I really don't think I can. That's okay. I feel terrible about that. That's okay. All of these are just parts of the 10,000 things. And and so we do what we can, each of us in the circumstances of our lives. And that's all we can do. And giving ourselves a trip about doing more or less is just a distraction. And so I think, I mean, I have, health issues. My wife has health issues. Um, so it's tricky, and I go through that all the time. And I find it very hard to accept that I can't do more than I can do. Um, so in this context, I want to put that out too. You do what you can, and if you can, you do as much as you possibly can. But even there, you have to take care of yourself. And so just even just the least, just a simple smile at someone passing by is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. It has ramifications beyond you could imagine. And so that's you know that's enough if that's what you can do. Thank you. Oh, okay, so questions, comments, and don't feel you have to talk about this highfalutin stuff. Whatever's on your mind is just fine. Yeah,
Thank you, Joe. That
sure.
was really a wonderful Dharma talk and teaching. Um, I think you should call it the logistics of compassion.
Oh,
So,
good title. It's a good title. What did I call it? I forget what
I don't know.
I called it glancing up at the Enso after zazen is what I called it. That's a lousy
Oh,
title. I'll take up your.
well, I've worked in operations for like 40 years, so it resonated with me. So things get done on the ground, but what you talk about is really important. We like to talk about the absolute. We want to imagine emptiness, be with emptiness, but where it gets done is right here in this moment on the ground. And, in order to organize ourselves, we have to be functional in this world, but aligned with our precepts, right?
Oh, totally.
And, we say that, just sitting is enough. And that might be true for some people, but in extraordinary times, maybe it's not enough. So, if we have the capacity to do things and organize things, we should do things in alignment with the Dharma. So, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, of course. Yes, our whole being, our whole life. is in accord with the Dharma. I mean, our there's zazen has nothing to do with sitting or lying down. It's in Dogen. His instructions for zazen include something like that. Like the zazen I teach has nothing to do with sitting or lying down. So the zazen Dogen teaches is everything, really. Now, if we're from an idealistic point of view, if we're distracted, you could say we're not doing zazen. Um, or you could say, well, we're doing distracted zazen. I mean, most of the time when we're sitting there facing the wall, at least for me, I'm distracted and I'm thinking about all this stuff. But is that zazen? Well, yes and no. You know, from an idealistic point, it's not, but um, it's sort of like the identity of relative and absolute. I mean, the absolute zazen would be utter stillness, samadhi, all that great stuff. And within the relative, within all things, are all things. So I don't know. I mean, I think we should do what we can, if that makes sense. Anyway, I don't know if that addresses what you were saying, but anyway, it's what occurs to me.
I guess we should do what we can is a good summary of what I was saying. So thank you.
That's perfect. That's where I ended, and that's excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good.
Okay.
Looks like we have a hand up.
It looks like Mike is raising his hand.
Mike?
Thank you for your talk, Joel.
Thanks.
I've been going through a lot of head banging about all the craziness that's going on in this world right now. And one of the things I got from your talk that I kind of liked that may have been kind of not intentional was to not judge our reactions to what's going on, but to be careful how involved we get, I guess, in the sense that the relative viewpoint that we have of the world generally does play a role in order to recognize the absolute, and that don't judge yourself to the point that you don't take on a relative function of meaning, okay, the bus rides, arranging a bus ride. That doesn't seem to appear like you're taking on the big challenge, but it ends up being a very good cause of taking on the challenge. And that's one of the things, like the small steps. You take a small step, you do something, it's relative to you. I'm going to do this little function, but it plants that seed that spreads throughout and helps it go through. And so that was the impression I got from your talk, was that was part of the thing, was that the relative and the absolute are the same thing. The relative is the way we work toward the absolute, as long as we don't get attached to it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does make sense to me. I mean, I mean, yeah, I mean, it does make total sense. And I would think I would say that's certainly what I was saying. But again, I wouldn't I don't feel I was saying, well, which probably you weren't intending, like, I might be just uptight because I'm uptight, I'm not doing enough. That I'm saying that the main or only thing I'm saying is, just be okay with what you can do. I am saying that, but I'm also saying it's horrible out there. So do what you can, and it's like they're both there. And so I kind of think the basic thing is just be at peace with what is, which is very hard now. And it includes being at peace with yourself, being at peace that you're consumed with rage. That's okay. But it might involve knowing, oh, I'm consumed with rage right now. And that's okay. So when you're, you know, getting that bus ticket, you're right there. When you're full of rage, you're right there. And you just do the best you can. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mitch, you have your hand up?
Your mic, Mitch. There you go.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not hearing you. It looks it looks like you're unmuted, but somehow I'm not hearing you. How about the rest of you? Are you hearing Mitch? No. Uh,
I heard him, but he sounded like a chipmunk again.
yeah, I mean, it was sort of a weird sound, and then I didn't hear anything, and now I just have his picture. Or not his picture. Well, from the point of view of the relative and absolute, the mountain there is his picture. But Mitch, yeah. Um, is there a way? Um, well, yeah, and like at least put in the chat, and maybe it's the best we can do right now.
We can't hear you, Mitch.
He might have to log in again.
Oh yeah, maybe that's what he's doing. Well, while he does, I'll take another question, and we'll hope he gets back and we can hear his question.
Yeah, Danny has a question.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I was wondering, there was that concept of good or bad, and some people say it doesn't exist. But what about instead of good or bad, we think of things as far as being socially healthy or socially unhealthy?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, socially healthy things are good, socially unhealthy things are bad. And there absolutely is good and bad. And that is, where is that? That's in that fancy picture. There absolutely is good and bad. And that's just what it is. So it's like, I kind of like that singular plural thing that Suzuki Roshi goes to. Things as it is, that's ungrammatical. But it's making all of this viewpoint just one thing. That's what it is. And there's good stuff, there's bad stuff, there's everything. And there is good stuff and there is bad stuff. And so we need to do what we can to improve the bad stuff and do what we can to avoid, you know, we need to do what we can to be good and help the world. And does that answer your question, Daniel? Does that help?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
It's
Yes, man.
hey.
So I've mentioned this before that one of the first lessons that I ever, or the first lesson I received from Peter was it wasn't what the verbiage you used, what the verbiage Peter used was things are as they are. I
Oh,
think
really?
it's the same thing, I think.
Yeah.
So Peter and I had this discussion, and it was the idea of things are as they are relieved me of the anxiety about what was going on because what's going on is what's going on. And
Right.
for me, it relieved me of a lot of anxiety. But the follow up on that doesn't mean that you can't go out and change it.
Absolutely.
That you don't, that you're just because there are situations that are abhorrent and ugly, it you don't have to accept it. Just don't get caught up and emotionally and do that attachment that causes us so many problems in so many different ways in our own practice, in our own lives. There are avenues to do something about it. That's what Peter and I talked about.
Well, you both are right. I both agree with
So
everything you say. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, of course. I mean, I think the part of it is that with my health problems and my wife's health problems, it's very hard for me to do everything I'd like to do. And I give myself a real trip about that. So when I'm talking about the March on Washington and, you know, I mean, it's sort of my shtick. And so I wanted to reassure people that, yeah, don't feel guilty. That's just adding one more thing to the whole thing, and it's not going to help. You always have to love yourself. So I had some emphasis on that, but I would also certainly encourage people who could to go out and organize the buses to go for a demonstration in Washington. Does that help you, Mitch? Does that make sense?
does.
Okay, good.
And I'm
But
just
what you asked,
for me it was I mean I was caught up in the whole civil rights movement back in the early 60s as
great.
part of the student civil rights coalition through the uh, um, Congress of Racial Equality, that whole thing until I got sucked into the war and had to join the Navy. Uh, um, and it really disturbed me and all the stuff that goes on. It, it, it caused me a lot of angst and some guilt to a certain extent, the Jewish guilt thing.
Yeah,
But
right. I know all
uh,
about it.
yeah, you understand that, right, Joel?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So so it relieved me of all of that, and it gives you more avenues that you can then go out and do something about it
Yes.
because it's an anchor. It's the old biblical thing about having a millstone around your neck. If you give up that attachment, it is freeing. It's
Absolutely.
liberating.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing you were describing at the beginning of what you said is exactly my experience the other day. That just realizing this and accepting it was freeing me from a lot of the anxiety and guilt and everything I was feeling around it. And that was going to be helpful for me in helping. So yeah, exactly. Anyone else? Okay. Hi, June.
Hi, Joel.
Good to see you.
See you. And thank you for the talk. And it was meaningful to me on the personal level as well. As a therapist in training, I often feel like I could do more. And a lot of times, my supervisors will say that that is when we need to practice more stillness and do more self care.
Yes.
When we want to do more, that's called countertransference, meaning that our personal feelings of wanting to do more and not trusting that the client's own power. So I have to step in and do something. So not believing in that person's autonomy. That
Mm,
can get in the way of that person's healing. So that just came to me when you were giving your talk because I realized that when I do zazen and if I practice more self care and stillness, I often can provide that space for that person in a more meaningful way for that person. So so this is the path that I chose to contribute myself to the world, and even if it doesn't seem to change things in direct way to right the wrong things that's going out there, I try to tell myself that I am doing something.
yes.
And maybe that's enough for now, as I am doing my best.
Well, that's the best there could possibly be. You're doing your best.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. And also we got to take care of ourselves, like you said.
Yeah.
And often when we feel like we have to do more, and then we get this anxiety out of not being able to do more. That anxiety can actually cause us some trouble.
Big trouble.
Right.
I agree totally. And I think you absolutely, as a therapist, are doing so much to help the whole mess out there. And you have no idea how much you're doing. And it's true, it's very important that, to let go of your own anxiety and, everything you said, I'm sure, and more than I can understand or articulate about the therapeutic situation. And it's very true. And I think, as a therapist, you have no idea. There could be one thing you say that, sounds melodramatic, but changes the world. Or just like one, you smile at someone on the street. Who knows? That could change the world. I mean, like, say, the person you offered an insight to, that insight, maybe, who knows? Let's be melodramatic, save them from committing suicide. Or the person that you smiled at the street was about to go and commit suicide. And because you smiled at them at the street, they didn't. And then, let's say your client or this person on the street became Martin Luther King. Who knows? So you just don't know. And those are extreme and melodramatic examples. I mean, I write operas, so what do you expect? But I mean, but you just don't know. You just, you could be doing so much more than you imagine just by being there and listening to the people in trouble and trying to help.
Yes, totally. And I think we tend to underestimate what we're already doing, the value of what we're already doing.
Yes, absolutely. We underestimate ourselves. It's, you probably have nice words for it, like, self-hatred comes to mind for me. But yeah, I mean, we constantly are putting ourselves down. At least I am, and most people I know, I think, are. And it does no good. It just really does not do good. I mean, it seems like, let's see, how do I put this? Well, okay. So there's suffering, right? That's what the whole thing is, the cause of suffering. And well, Mel would say, Sojourn Rush, Mel would say, a sad thought is just a sad thought. A happy thought is just a happy thought. And it's like there's a distinction between pain and suffering. Like you can be in tremendous pain, and that's not suffering until you grab it. It's just pain. And when you grab it in your mind and start to mull over it and this and that, that's called suffering. And so the Buddha didn't say if you stub your toe, you're not going to feel pain. But he was saying if you stub your toe, you don't have to suffer in that way. I mean, it's really great PR if you think about it. He said, I can relieve all suffering. And people say, yay, this is great. I've been looking for this all my life. But then it's a lot harder than that. But it's true. Like friend of mine, wonderful. I mean, she was so great. Teacher Alexandra at Berkeley, she had Parkinson's and she became a teacher, and then her Parkinson's got really bad. She once told me that she had never been depressed in her illness. She also described in the Zenda, in a talk, being sitting there in the sendo, being in total agony. And the only thing that relieved her, which Mel told her to do, is really focus on the out breath. And she says, when I was breathing out, it was okay. When I wasn't breathing out, it was horrible. And so she came and said, during this was she had been sick for years. And she just said, no, I haven't been depressed. Doesn't mean she hadn't been in agony. It's a different thing, you know. And so I think what you said was very beautiful, very true. Thank you. Someone else? Other questions?
I do. I don't
Okay.
know how to raise the hand on Zoom, so forgive me for not.
Oh, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm terrified of technology.
So forgive me for just jumping in
Oh,
here.
no.
I I find one the multitude of things that I love about Buddhism is the compassion,
Yeah.
and very often we work on the compassion externally.
Excuse me? You work on
Externally,
internally.
and no, externally,
Yes.
we make
Yes.
sure we grow the compassion outward into the world. And for me at least, for every 10 scoops of compassion outward, I give myself about one scoop.
Join the club.
And to remind myself over and over again, hang on, just give yourself some space. You wouldn't think this way about a person that you love. Why would you think this way about your own self?
Absolutely. That's so
And
great.
and that for me lies in the bed of calm.
Hmm.
Calmness is how I can find things like compassion and joy and peace, right? And the calmness that is from where we're supposed to act in this world.
Supposed to?
From that calm, we should be acting into this in this world.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. So this is what I'm getting to is that very, very often, and in listening to everybody speak here, I'm reminded of the image of the archer,
Yeah.
individual who has to stand with his bow or their arrow, and knowing that gravity, the elements of the wind, the making of the Fletcher, the making of the psyche of the person who made the Fletcher, time itself, just every single thing that is not working for the archer is in its way of hitting that bullseye.
That's right.
Now, metaphorically speaking, of course, that would be the things that we would call bad.
Yeah.
Stop getting in our way. Right?
Yeah.
But we have to be calm.
Yes.
We have to do three things that happen to be the most important thing when it comes to being a Buddhist in action in this world. We have to have intention for that bullseye.
Mhm.
We have to apply tension to pull back, right? And then we also have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And then, with all of that being said,
Yeah.
you have to let go.
No kidding.
That is the wildest thing that I have found myself.
Yeah.
But I listen to everybody speaking here, and I hear the, the beautiful dance of duality. But how can we be calm? How can we see things for its non-two-ness while still participating in something that seems so two?
Absolutely. Well, that is the whole issue, isn't it?
Practice.
The whole practice
When I
is,
get to that stage for myself, I just think about the archer every time.
and so,
Intention,
yeah.
attention, and apply tension, and then let it go.
Do you practice archery?
I have, I used to go to the one that's in, I want to say Simi Valley for a little while. I It was more, there's like 30 people that are there, so you don't get so frequent times to go back to one, try it again, go back to one. I would prefer to find somewhere that is a little more direct. I can do the practice, go back to it, I can do the practice. Um, So I don't practice it enough. I would absolutely love to answer the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's worth exploring because it's obviously a practice that speaks to you so strongly. Very beautiful practice. I did a little of that at one point, and it was very helpful. It's a very uh, concentration practice. That moment where you release the arrow, it's an amazing practice.
Yeah.
So it speaks to you so strongly, and I just, you know, I would, search. I mean, I guess Google it. I mean, I don't know. It's what is it, Kyudo or something? Kyudo. Yeah.
Martial arts.
Well, it's a martial art, I guess, but Kyudo, KY, yeah, Mitch says that's right. That's the fancy Japanese name for it. So if you're Googling archery, maybe better to do Google Kyudo, which is going to take you to this archery that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, I was I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you can go to big Zen centers, I mean, where there are a lot of people. Like, I was introduced to it ages ago at Zen Mountain Monastery in New York. There was a workshop, and my teacher encouraged me to do archery. But hey, who knows? You might call them. And they have their thing is like they have a weekend of this, weekend of archery, a weekend of so they know a lot of people. It's just, anyway, that's what I found. But I would really encourage you. It's a marvelous practice.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. The image comes up for me because we're talking about the doing the best you can.
Yeah,
Doing the
that's
best
all
you can.
you do.
Letting go is the way through that for me is the self-compassion.
Totally. And the other thing I was going to say is, have you read Sharon Salzberg's book, Loving Kindness?
No, I have not.
Oh, you definitely should. Everyone should read that. It's a book about, they're called the Four Blessed Dwelling Places
Mhm.
of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And
You said Sharon?
uh, what's that?
What was her name? I'm sorry.
Oh, Sharon Salzberg. Salz, Salzberg. Salzberg.
Found
Sharon.
it.
And it's called Loving Kindness. And it's a book about all of these four things. I mean, we chant the Metta Sutta, the Sutra of Loving Kindness, and it's mainly been developed in Vipassana teaching, but and it wasn't very much done in Zen until recently. Everyone is doing it because it's what everyone needs. I mean, every Zen center I've ever been at does the loving kindness. So check out Sharon Salzberg's book. It's
Oh, well,
really
thank you. I
you
was
bet.
here. I was actually at the Zendo here with Peter 2 Thursdays ago, and the practice, the guided meditation was metta. I spent a lot of time with Sri Lankan monks, and there was a lot of that. So it was really cool to get to sit here, and I go, oh, this feels nice. So
Definitely. Oh,
uh,
how fabulous! Sri Lankan monks. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, it was.
What great good fortune.
I was very fortunate. I'm very thrilled for it. I'm very blessed. One of the monks and I still have a good correspondence.
Oh, fabulous. Great. Terrific.
Thank you for your talk as well, by the way. Very, very helpful, very warming. Thank you.
Thank you so much.